Tom died in his sleep. He was 14 years old. He had been perfectly happy, physically no problems at all. So it was a complete and utter shock when we found him. It turned out to be an undiagnosed heart condition. We just hadn't been aware. There'd been no signs, nothing at all. And we found after his death that we then were plunged into a world of tests and doctors to find out whether the rest of the family was at risk, and we had advice from CRY on that, which helped enormously, and I'm glad to say that everybody else was clear, but obviously too late for Tom. I think it's really hard to quantify the effect something like this has on the family. Everyone's obviously devastated, and it's not just me and my wife Claire and my daughter Ellen, it's also the wider circle, grandparents, his uncle, his aunt, his nephews, then all his friends, all our friends. It has a huge impact on everybody, and I think the one thing I've found with all this is that you have experts who tell you all about grief and so on, and they tell you have the 7 stages of grief, and frankly everyone's an individual, and I think that's the main lesson that I've taken. I'd never had counselling before this happened, never felt I needed it. One of the first things I thought was that I did need it this time, and I had counselling with CRY. I think I felt very strongly that we could end up saying the same things to each other and driving each other around the bend, so it was useful to have that as well. And I also think that the effect of this sort of situation is such that you can't tell how any individual is going to respond to grief, and as part of a family you respond differently at different times, and I think we've tried really hard to take into account of that. I think there's that point where sometimes you feel really down and your partner maybe doesn't feel quite as down, and then you get into that, well, do you drag them down? You don't want to impose on them if they're getting a few minutes sense of relief from things. So I think you really can't quantify how much something like this completely alters your life, and I think more than anything else we all know that life is fragile, but I think until something like this happens you don't quite grasp the fragility. I think one of the hardest things I've found to cope is how angry I felt at times about what has happened. Not with anyone, I don't blame doctors or anyone about it. It's just a general sense of the unfairness, I guess, of what's happened. And I remember right at the beginning someone saying to me, well, the question is as much, when you're saying why me, is why not you? And actually, although that's awful, it doesn't make you feel any less angry. In some ways it makes me feel more. But I sort of got that. There isn't anything really that says it shouldn't be you. It doesn't stop me feeling incredibly angry about it, and you try and do things. I try and do things like the gym or whatever to get it out of me, but sometimes that's difficult, very difficult. Tom was 14 when he died, so he hadn't really buttoned down what it was that he wanted to do. He really enjoyed writing and English, and he also liked sport, both taking part and watching, and he had said that he'd quite like to be a commentator or a sports writer, some sort of sports journalism, but really I think at that age he was just enjoying things and looking forward to the future.